We are going to discuss Armenia after World War I.
What were the conditions of Armenia after World War I?
Armenia's army unfortunately can't resist the Communist armies, and most of their lands were grabbed by Mustafa Kemal. In the end, Armenia accepted the demand of Soviet Russia and allowed it to be declared a Soviet Socialist Republic. How did Turkey and Russia influence Armenia after World War I?
After Armenia was attacked by the Communist armies, they had to sue for peace because much of what belonged to Armenia was grabbed. Armenia was occupied by Russia and Turkey, and it was tragic for Armenia. However, it had also brought about a good deal of good in culture, education, and technology in Armenian modern history. Why should we study this period of time and how has that impacted Armenia today? This period of time, Armenia after World War II, was when Armenia was erupted by the Soviet Union and became the Soviet Socialist Republic in 1920. From 1921 until 1991, the Soviet Armenian history impacted present day Armenia's culture, education, technology, and industry. Thank you.
Hello everyone, we are Team 2. Today we are going to share our discussion of Armenian Genocide.
Ethan, why do people deny today that this took place?
Yeah, the massacres happening in Armenia or other countries were merciless and condemned. The governments don't want to take responsibility for these cruel events and don't want to admit these problems to maintain their status and power, except from the victims. Other people don't have deep feeling about these events. As time passes, people forget about them. This also makes the government easier to deny the happening of these events. Okay, next. Why are countries afraid to recognize what happened even after 107 years?
Denial is a poison which pollutes the human spirit. It's a form of abduction of the truth process, of the factuality of history to serve, the desires, the needs of whoever is stealing that records and rewriting it to be their records. It's the antithesis of everything that democracy stands for. And Josh, why should we study this aspect of history?
We should study this aspect of history to be aware of things that happened to the Armenians and other people, and learn how extremely horrible genocide is.
Okay, thank you. That's all for our discussion.
Hello, we are Group 3. I'm James.
I'm Mindy.
I'm Brian.
Today, we are going to talk about Armenian genocides.
How did this take place, James?
Turkish historiography today categorically seek to emphasize that the Armenians were vying for independence, and in so doing were guilty and had to be punished. This is their perspective. The first phase was the extermination of the Third Army, which had 100,000 men. The second phase was the extermination of Armenian elite in every province. The third phase was the capture and extermination of the remaining populations in their own communities.
How can you possibly eliminate almost an entire group of people can get away from it, Mindy?
At that time, young Turks were worried about civil commotion in the Armenia region within its borders. The government claimed to migrate the entire Armenian people to the desert areas of the southern border, but in fact, it ruthlessly killed and persecuted them. At first, they killed the leaders of the Armenians, including religious, political, and intellectual elites, and then persecuted the soldiers. In the end, the old and young, women and children were forced to travel long distances, and they could not escape the fate of starvation or death. On the other hand, Turkey is located at the border of Asia and Europe, and its strategic position is important. Therefore, the major powers at that time just considered their own political interests and did nothing to stop Turkey.
How did these events impact later genocides, and why should we study genocides today, Brian?
The Armenians lived in Anatolia in the eastern part of the Ottoman Empire for many years, but their religions, beliefs, and customs are different from the Turks. So they were pressured by the imperial governments, and some Armenians sought help from the Russian Empire. In 19th centuries, an organization called CUP came to power. Although CUP advocates reforming the country and modernization, it has an unfriendly attitude towards non-Turks. They lost to the Russian army in the First World War, and blamed the future on the betrayal of Armenians. Then genocide occurred in the name of Armenians' rebellion. Studies genocide can give people a deeper understanding of human rights around the world. The course can also give people an understanding of personal possibility and the dangers of being silent. That's all. Thank you.
Hello everyone, we are going to discuss the Armenia First Republic. The first question is, what was the relationship between the First Armenia Republic and the West, in particular the US?
The US-Armenia partnership predates the official establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries before Armenia's independence. After that, the United States has been helping Armenia strengthen democratic institutions and sustainable and inclusive economic growth. The United States and Armenia also signed a number of treaties about trade and investment, allowing the export from Armenia to the United States. The second question is, without the US support, what happened to the First Armenia Republic?
In September 1920, Turkey was close to invading the capital of Armenia. In less than a year, the Soviet Union invaded Armenia, and Armenia was forced to join the Transcaucasian Socialist Federative Soviet Republic. Perhaps because Armenia relied too much on the US and other Western countries, and did not get the needed support, Armenia fell under the control of the Soviet Union. That's all. Thank you.
Hello everyone. We are Group 5, and I'm Brian.
I'm Howard.
I'm Sam.
I'm Jason. Today, we're going to discuss why studying Armenian genocide is important.
So, Brian, why should we study the Armenian genocide today?
We think that it is necessary for all the global citizens to study this history because the genocides or the bad things happen in the world have a big, immeasurable negative effect to the whole globe, regardless your economics or your gender or even your race. Through this course, everyone can come to realize that we all need to take on the responsibility of prevent the bad thing from happening again. So that is the reason why we think the course is necessary. We cannot change the world, so we should face the tragic history and educate our offspring to prevent these horrible things from happening again. Also, the government should not just deny the history and should give a public statement regarding the truth of this history. That's all for our discussion on this question.
And Howard, what did you learn through the discussions and the videos?
Through these discussions and videos, I've known that study history, knowing what happened in the past, is very important. And we can know that there's lots of constant conflicts broke out in the past. For example, the Armenian Genocide or even the World Wars. And we are human beings, we are facing problems, and we'll try to prevent this kind of tragedy from happening again. So, the history experts are trying to correctly interpret the history and warn the human beings around the world the horror of the racial distinction, just like what happened in Armenia. And also, I think that the democracy and the constitutionality countries should make it their responsibility to help the autocratic countries move toward democracy.
Okay, Sam, what have you learned through the AGBU Armenian Virtual College experience this year?
I have learned the knowledge of geography and the history of Armenia. I felt I was able to learn more between the relationship between the Europe and Asia in ancient times. And because Armenia is located in between the Western Europe and Eastern Asia, there are lots of medieval historical remains. Only very few remains like that in Taiwan. And I believe it's important for us to study the history of the world. And how does this information change your understanding of the world and current politics, Jason?
After knowing this information, I believe that more certainly, the history does repeat itself again and again, unfortunately, like the genocide. And it is a horrible thing that a person, such as a politician, could carry out such an evil act to kill many people at will. Moreover, the cause of genocide is not only limited to race, but also pertains to religion. After watching these videos, I feel that we are lucky to live in a more peaceful world now, with less war and stopping genocide from happening. That's all for my answer.
So, Sam, what have you learned through today's program?
I realized for a long time, people have always carried out the invasive acts against other ethnic groups based on their interests of their own ethnic groups. including genocides. These actions have resulted in many tragedies, as well as the loss of culture and race. This is very sad and regrettable. People differentiate themselves from other ethnic groups and cause antagonism and conflict. However, it is always those in power who profit from these conflicts, and the people always fall victims to politics. We're all humans, and we should cooperate more in order to create more well-being for mankind. That's all for our discussion through this program. Thank you.